Hi, I'm Yang. Hi, Eric. Yeah, you have a large number of Chinese fans and around the world. Could you say hello to the global Chinese community? Yeah, in Chinese
Hey,
it means yeah, 你好, yeah, you
oh
Chinese.
yeah. I know that at least. Ni hao,
Yeah,
everybody, Chinese community, ni hao, and thank you for following on Yao's WeChat group and following Opendoor and me. We our Chinese community is probably the biggest community of all the different communities in the Open Army, and so we are very grateful for all of your support. Thank you.
okay. You posted the videos and tweets on Twitter saying 拿住. That means holding open, right? And 牛币,
Yeah.
NB, right? Means awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
So
taught you
what is Asu? Is how you say it? Is it
拿住.
Atsu. Okay.
拿住, yeah,
Atsu.
and
Atsu
牛币,
open.
yeah, 拿住 open, yes, and 牛币means awesome, right?
New B. Yes, I know New
牛币,
B. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
which attracted a large number of fans and attention for you in the Chinese community. Are you personally very interested in Chinese culture?
Yeah, very much. I have a lot of friends from Hong Kong and from China. I've visited China and Hong Kong several times in my career. I always love coming back to Hong Kong. And I live in Canada. I live in Toronto. And my I have four children, two boys, two girls. My girls are in grade seven, so they're still young. They're 12 years old. But in at their school, they I would say almost 80% of their class in their particular grade is either from China or their parents moved to Canada from China, and all the moms communicate via WeChat. So like my wife had to learn how to use WeChat and to be in the parents group and all this kind of stuff. So yes, we love the Chinese culture and love being with them.
Yeah, I see your dogs. Yeah.
Sorry about my dogs.
Okay. As the founder of the EMG Capital, how did you first discover Open Door? What key factors led you to decide to invest heavily in it and promote it?
Well, I had a bad experience with it many years ago because I have I have been waiting for the turnaround of Opendoor for many years, and so uh, in 2022, so 3 years ago, I was on a podcast in New York City, which is a popular American finance podcast called The Compound and Friends. And we were talking on this podcast about how at that time in June 2022, this is when crypto was crashing, tech stocks were crashing,
Yeah.
all the Cathie Wood stocks were crashing.
Everything
And
crashed.
yeah. And so they wanted to know because they knew that I like technology stocks. They said, "Well, Eric, which are the stocks that are going to come back?" And so I said, I think there are two that will come back from the dead. One is Carvana, and at the time Carvana was like $20 a share or something. It was down from $400 a share,
Yeah.
but I thought it was going to come back up. And then the second stock was Opendoor, and so I said I think Opendoor is also going to be very successful. It's very similar businesses, Opendoor and Carvana in many ways. I think at the time Opendoor was like maybe $4, something like that. It was down from like $39. And I thought it would come back, but I was wrong for both initially because in the second half of 2022, the environment got worse. Um, Carvana dropped from 400 to 20 down to $3.50 by December of that year.
Yeah.
But then it did come back and it did have this big turnaround all the way back to $400. And I kept waiting for Opendoor to come back. I kept waiting and waiting and waiting. And like a year passed and then 2 years passed and then the thing kept going down and down and finally last year I sold it. I said, well, I guess I was wrong that you can't always be right in the stock market. And so I forgot about it. But then earlier this year, I made some changes at my hedge fund, and I said I need to focus this year about I found Carvana. That was successful. We had an AI model that we had built. It was a very early stage AI model that just sort of identified Carvana. And I said we need and we had found some other successful companies last year, not as much as Carvana, but good ones. And so I said let's focus on these 100x stocks or 100 bagger stocks. Like what stocks have the opportunity to grow 10 times, 50 times, 100 times. And we with that focus, we started we picked two companies to begin with, Iron and Cipher Mining that have a that they're Bitcoin miners, but they're making a transition into AI. And then we and then people started asking me why don't you talk about Opendoor anymore? You used to talk about Opendoor, and I thought, oh, that's a good question, and that's what led me to go back to my research, try to find out what's happening with the company again, and
Yeah.
then I was surprised that I thought, oh, this company finally looks like it's about to turn around, and that's what inspired me to talk about it and go public with my position in Opendoor.
Okay. From your perspective, what areas of Open's business mode can be optimized or improved? Can Opendoor's iBuyer, the mode, truly disrupt the traditional real estate market?
I think the iBuying is one piece of their total solution.
Yeah.
But iBuying by itself doesn't make a lot of money. However, the same is true in Carvana. And with Carvana, Carvana is buying and selling used cars in the US. And so it's trying to make a more efficient process for consumers to buy and sell used cars through their apps or their computer rather than going to a car dealership like they used to have to do and do talk to a human. And nowadays nobody wants to talk to a human. Everyone just wants to do everything on their phones, right? And
Yes.
so Carvana doesn't make a lot of money from buying and selling the cars, but they do make a lot of money in terms of their profit from finance and interest around the cars. So, and then they have some other services that they bundle as well. So they bundle these products together. They build out a national platform. They have like very high volume, high scale. They have only a handful of competitors. And so, and from that dominant position, they are able to make a lot of money. It's also very similar to Uber. Uber didn't make money at ride sharing to begin with. They built out the national platform. It took a lot of work. Then they expanded to China. Then they expanded to other countries. And then their volume got so big that they were able to make a lot of money on it. So Opendoor has to do the same thing. They won't ever make a lot of money from iBuying by itself, but they can make a lot of money from mortgage and interest tied back to the property. And so I think that will be the equivalent like Carvana's finance and interest. I expect now that this second version of Opendoor to be much more focused on those opportunities and prove that they can make money from this model.
Okay, get it. Yeah, you went to San Francisco last week, right? And meet with Open's management team. And did you put forward any important suggestions and what was their attitude towards to you?
Well, they asked me to kind of keep it secret
Okay.
in terms of who I met with and stuff. So I won't say exactly who I met with, but I can say it was like this, senior people from the company. And I definitely shared all the same things that I tweet about all the time about Opendoor. I communicated directly to their faces, and I asked them very hard questions like, why isn't Keith Raboy already on this board? It's an obvious move. Like, so you should make this now. I communicated that they probably shouldn't pick the next CEO. They should wait until Keith comes on the board and use his insight to help pick the next CEO. So reducing costs, cutting the number of employees, having a focus on AI. Building out this, bundle of products that what we just talked about. So yeah, I discussed all of those things, and what I would say is, they were very aware of almost. I mean, I tweet a lot about Opendoor, but they seem to know almost every tweet I've ever sent about Opendoor, which is usually like 100 a day. So I don't know how they must have, that must be all the work they do is just sort of sit there and read my tweets, 5 tweets an hour or something. So, but they seem to know every idea. And they didn't agree with every idea, but I think they were very open-minded to trying to use the best ideas. And I think they also realized that the global community that is now behind Open with the retail investors was a very special gift for them, and they wanted to make sure that they um, you know capitalized on that and used it to, and didn't ignore it, even though they have been very quiet so far.
Okay. What advice do you have for Open's management team and the board of directors?
Um, I guess my advice is they have to be, I mean, the most important thing now is the next CEO of this company. They have to pick the right CEO. I mean, I've said I like and I admire Travis Kalanick, who was the first CEO of Uber, because he was very results oriented. It took a lot of hard work to create Uber. They had to fight against a lot of government regulations in all the cities that they operated in. And you couldn't be nice. You couldn't be quiet. You couldn't ask please. You had to take action first and then, not be afraid to upset some people. And I think that's exactly the same kind of attitude um, that Open needs now at this moment in time. They're coming off of 3 years with Carrie as the CEO, who was just too quiet. She was like a finance person. She did no media interviews. You need to be more action oriented, and you need to have someone who's a much more tech um, oriented CEO, product focused CEO, because
Yeah.
AI is going to be very important for this company and in their future. So.
Okay. According to the current interest rates and the global economy uncertainty, what is your outlook of the future of the U.S. real estate market? Will the U.S. secondary house market recover after interest rate cuts?
Well, I think there's a problem around the world, not just in the US, with home affordability. I mean, I
Yeah.
know even in Hong Kong where you are. I mean, I've gotten
Mm.
a lot of messages from people from Hong Kong
Yes.
complaining of, why can't Opendoor come here? We have a big problem with the cost of real estate here. We need more efficiency. We need lower prices. We need to stop paying all these different fees to all these people who get involved in the process that make the costs extra expensive. So that's true in the United States. It's true in Canada. It's true in Europe. And so there's also a lot of um, worried young people around the world who tell me that they don't think they will ever be able to afford a home until they're in their 50s. And obviously that's not right. That's not how we all grew up. Thinking about owning a home one day, like when we were in 20s and starting a family and all that. So there are a lot of things that are broken around the world, and certainly interest rates being so high now are a big contributing factor. So there's no question that if you had to pick one thing to fix that problem, it's significantly lowering the mortgage rates, and that seems to be happening now in the United States. Not because somebody had a great idea to do that, but because all the tight interest rates, the high interest rates of these last 3 years are really now slowing things down in the U.S. And now, that makes them worried, and the interest rates have to fall to try to improve things. So but there are other things that the government in the United States can do, and so I think President Trump is very focused on home affordability. I
Yeah.
think JD Vance, who's going to be probably the candidate that will run next for the Republicans after Trump, he's very interested in that topic. You have a guy named Bill Pulte, who from Pulte Homes, who's a former like home builder, who is the government's top person for housing. All of them are very focused on what can we do, what policies can we change. So I think you should expect that there will be some proactive changes in the U.S. in the next 6 months to try to in addition to the mortgage rates dropping, to make homes more affordable and kind of easier to move and unfreeze the market there. And that should be directly beneficial to Opendoor and the volumes that Opendoor sees.
Okay. What is your view on the short selling report released by such as your Citron research last week?
I just think that they're
Yeah, suicide.
uh,
Yeah, suicide.
well, it's I mean, I'm glad I'm not short open stock, that's for sure, because I think it's going much higher. I think they're being completely backwards looking about this business. I haven't gone through their tweets or the reports or whatever, but I mean, I've read enough to know that they're basically arguing this iBuying model has never made money, therefore the company can never make money. These other companies like Zillow and Redfin pulled out of this business because they couldn't make money. Therefore, it's a dumb business. Therefore, it's a zero. That's their argument. And so that argument would have led them to conclude that Apple would never make money after John Scully. And they would have said, oh, they should just put it in boxes. Go, when Steve Jobs came back, why even give this guy a chance to change it? Obviously, this thing can never work. It's never been successful so far. It's a failure. Boom, it's a zero. It's the same logic. And obviously, Steve Jobs proved that with vision and intellect, you can change things significantly. And I think my hope is that they bring back Keith Rabois to the
Yeah,
board of directors. He's the one who wrote the first business plan for Opendoor. He
yeah,
was a co-founder of the company. I personally think he's the smartest person in American technology. I think he's just a brilliant guy. He's not always 100% right, but he's been right way more than he has been wrong. And I know, because he's tweeted about it, some of his ideas for turning around the company, and I 100% agree with them. And I think it would be, and they're very different from, just the old iBuying approach that they took in generation one of Opendoor. So I just think the shorts don't have any creativity or imagination to be able to see that. They just look backwards.
okay. Which company do you think will be Opendoor's main competitors in the future?
That's a good question. Because they're in a special place. Like right now, the biggest real estate company in the United States is Rocket Mortgage. And so you would think, oh, they're going to be a competitor, but they are a company that only provides very simple mortgages for customers.
Yeah,
And Opendoor is really about servicing the sellers. Like if you want to sell your home, you can call your real estate agent to sell it, or you could go to Opendoor to find out how much your home is worth, or maybe get the first bid for your house from Opendoor. And so because that's different from getting a mortgage, and it's different from the people that go to Zillow, where people in America use Zillow like because they kind of want to spy on rich people and know how much their houses are worth, or know how much, what does Zillow say my house is worth, and it's more I don't know, it's like reading a celebrity gossip magazine rather than, a lot of the people aren't there to do a real estate transaction. And so the people that come to Opendoor, there were 1.5 million people, Americans last year, who came to Opendoor and requested a quote for their house. And so that's a very different kind of value um, intent. And so just like with Google and search, like you can monetize the seller intent, much better for a business like Opendoor compared to Zillow or compared to Rocket Mortgage. So I think that's why I think they're in such a special place if they really focused and got better. I think Zillow would have to get back into iBuying. Redfin, which is now part of Rocket Mortgage, would have to get back into iBuying, and they probably will do that once Opendoor proves that the model is successful. So those will probably be the competitors, but it will be probably 3 or 4 years from now, and by that time, Open should be a much bigger company, more successful, and have so much more momentum that the other people won't catch up, just like nobody could catch up with Google.
okay. Yeah. Redfin, yeah, Zillow, yeah. And from a market perspective, you all know that you generated significant dismission efforts through the Drake video, right? If you were Open CMO, yeah, what measures would you take to help Open expand its market?
Well, I would take advantage of this interest in Drake. I still hope that I'm gonna meet Drake in the next few weeks here in Toronto and convince him to buy Opendoor shares. But if I was the CMO of Open, I would go to Drake's people and I would say, we want you to star in our Super Bowl TV ad this year. And we want to, make it all about you, Drake, and Open and put it together because I think that's a match made in heaven, those two. And I think it would be really exciting and much more, probably the most popular TV ad of the Super Bowl. If I was Drake's people, I would say, yes, we will do it open, but you have to pay us in shares, not cash, because we are now, we believe in Open 82 and Open 200 and Open 500, and we want to make sure that we fully maximize, our time for supporting you. So I think that's probably the best thing that they could do. Maybe also, try to capitalize on the fact that this is now like probably the most popular retail stock since GameStop. So what can they do with what can they do with that? How can they make right now they have TV ads. Sorry. Right now we have they have TV ads for um oh, can I pause for 1 minute?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can. Yeah, you
Somebody
can.
at the door.
Okay, okay.
Okay.
Take your time.
Okay, sorry,
Okay, let's go.
my wife forgot it was cleaning lady day, and so the cleaning ladies were banging on the door to
Yeah.
come in. Um, I would take it if I was the CMO. I would also want to take advantage of the international interest in Opendoor, and so we have one supporter from Antarctica who owns OpenShares. We have someone from Afghanistan, someone from Mongolia, uh, Iran. We have people from like all over, almost every country in the world. So if I was them, I would try to build some community, build some alliances with all these people, which has started organically. Open doesn't even operate in these countries except the US, and sort of make the most of it.
Okay. Let's talk about the stock price, right? Opendoor stock has risen sharply recently. What factors do you think are the main drivers, and what do you think Open's next short-term target price will be? 10 or more? Yeah.
Well, I definitely I think that the key factor is what happens with there's I think there's pressure on the board now
Okay.
to bring in Keith Raboy. And so, if they made an announcement today, for example, that they were bringing back Keith Raboy to the board,
Yeah.
and maybe he was going to play a role in picking the next CEO, or if he came and then a week from now let's say Keith picked the next CEO. I don't know who he would pick, but someone like a Travis Kalanick. I mean that's suddenly the stock could be a $50 stock. Like it's very hard to predict because um, there, that's a different outcome compared to if the board leaves Keith off and the board decides to, make their own selection. Like I think if they did something like that, then the stock could go back to, maybe not 50 cents right away, but it would drop significantly. And so when I was with them last week, I mean that was one of the things that I tried to communicate to them. I think like they're in a special now they're at $5, $6, $7. Like, but you could go one way or you could go the other way, very quickly. It all depends on you and like the choices that you make. So but after I had the meeting with them, I went to New York and I did meet with Keith in person. And then, we had a very good discussion about all the kinds of ideas that we have for improving Open. And then afterwards, we just took a photo and then I posted it. And then I did a little video for 3 minutes afterwards, so talking about our meeting. And just the photo and the video of me meeting Keith, like that, the stock went up 20% that day. And then the next day it went up another 15%. So that puts a lot of pressure on the board. I mean, basically the message that the shareholders are saying is we
Yeah.
want Keith on the board. We
Yeah.
want him to be a part of this process.
Yeah.
So I think they will decide to do that, and and then I think the stock will go quickly past $10, I think, within a few days. So it probably gets closer to $20, if Keith is on the board. And then if he picks the right CEO, it's going to be something closer to $50.
Okay, 20. Oh, I love it. Yeah, you predicted that Opendoor stock price could reach 82 or even 500, right? What assumes
Yeah.
it's based on? Was it a serious calculation or just a casual joke? Yeah.
No, it wasn't a joke. People always ask me that. Why 82?
Uh,
Like that's so specific. Like
yeah,
why didn't you say 100? Why didn't you say 70?
yeah,
Um, and so the truth is that when my first tweet about Open was on July 14th, and I had, I don't know, nine-part tweets that I sent. And what I said in that thesis, I guess, is basically when you look at what happened to Carvana, um, Carvana didn't make money before its comeback. It was losing money. So
yeah,
you couldn't use price to earnings to value Carvana because there were no earnings. So you had the only metric that you could use was price to sales. And so if you looked at where Carvana traded in 2020, when it was a $400 stock, it had a price to sales multiple, like of next year's sales, looking forward. They were, I believe it was 6 times price to sales forward multiple. And then the stock goes down from 400 to, $20 when I was on the podcast in 2022. At
yeah,
that time, the multiple shrank from 6 to 0.5 times forward sales.
yeah,
And now it's come back to 400, and now it's at 5 times for next year's sales. That's what Carvana trades at. With Opendoor, I said, like, basically, I think it's going to follow the same path as Carvana. It's going, so when it first de-SPACed and came public as a company with Chamath in 2021, the highest multiple it received was like a 7 times forward sales multiple. And then at its lowest point, I guess like back in June 25th, it hit 51 cents a share. It was at 0.1 times next year's sales. And so I said, well, I think eventually it's going to go back to, maybe not 7 times sales, but like maybe 5 times sales if it follows the Carvana model. And then in 3 years from now, it's not going to happen right away, but like by 2028. So if you're going to use that in 2028, which is 3 years from now, you have to say, well, what are the revenues for Opendoor going to be in 2029 next year? And according to Bloomberg, if you pull it up on Bloomberg today, Opendoor is supposed to do 12 billion in revenues in 2029. So 5 times 12 billion in revenues leads you to an $82 stock price. So that's how I got to the $82 stock price. But now Open has become so popular, especially with retail, and people say, "Oh, it's a meme stock." I don't agree because I think all the meme stocks go up and they go down quickly.
yeah,
I call I call Opendoor a cult stock, and what I mean by that is a cult stock is something that usually retail sees first before institutions, before Wall Street, but
yeah,
it has a long growth ahead of it. So I can only think of two, maybe there's more in China or in Hong Kong, but there's only really been in America two cult stocks in tech in the last 10 years. One is Palantir. Palantir, ever since they IPO'd, everyone on Wall Street has complained it's too expensive. So now it's $170 a share.
yeah,
Even at $5 a share, people would go on CNBC and complain that it was too expensive at $5 a share.
mm,
Um, but people retail has loved it, and they've been right. The other second stock like that is Tesla. So
yeah,
not so much now because now Tesla is so big, it's like more like a Mag 7 stock. It doesn't really move that much.
yeah,
But back in 2018, remember remember they were going to go private, and then Elon had the tweet about the Saudis buying them and stuff. Back then, like that, like there were so many bears on Tesla. They said it was going to go bankrupt and all this kind of stuff. But then there was like a group of true believers that just they believed Tesla was the most important stock ever. And so I think since Tesla and now and Palantir, Opendoor is now the next big cult stock. So with a cult stock, you never know. I mean, and if they get the right CEO, if they get Keith on the board, I don't. I think it's reasonable that this could be an $82 stock before the end of 2025.
Okay. I'm a big fan of Tesla. I love your words. Yeah. As a long-term holder, of Opendoor, what advice do you have for the retail investors? Yeah.
Well, I owned Carvana. I first bought it when it was coming back. The AI model that I used said I should buy it at $11. And at first I didn't believe it. So we waited a week to check the AI, and we ended up buying it a week later, and by then it was $15. But I held it for like a lot of the run higher. And what I would say to the open door holders is that these stocks are very volatile. There's a lot of up days where it's up 15%, but then you have a lot of days where it might be down 15%.
Yeah.
And I think there were three times with Carvana between the time when I bought it at 15 and when it got to say $200 a share. I think there were three different times where it pulled back either between 25% or maybe sometimes I think the biggest one was like 60%. So
Yeah.
it went up and then it dropped 60%. And I get people that the other day Opendoor was down 10%, I think, in one day. And I get all these Twitter messages and emails. Oh my God, my life is ending. Like a month ago this was $1.70 stock, but now it's closer to $7, but it dropped 10% today. How am I going to help? Help me, Eric. What should I do? And all this. And all I can say is, like, you just have to expect that volatility, and you have to be comfortable with it. And you have to keep your eyes on the long-term goal here. It's hard when it's your money. You worked very hard for. I understand, and all of us are a little different in how we deal with our money, right? Some of us are very, oh, whatever, it's money is money. But then there are some people that if stock drops 5 cents, like they feel like they've been robbed or something like this, and they can't sleep, and they're sending me 5 emails in a row, and want reassurance and all this. All I can say is, like, you have to understand, like, these stocks can be very volatile, and you have to, if you're not willing to just sit on your hands, then you probably shouldn't be owning the stock. You should probably just go, buy a bank stock or buy the Mag 7, and so you don't have to worry as much. But if you do believe, just try to take the long-term view.
Okay. The last question. Yeah. If given the opportunity, yeah, would you look forward to traveling to regions such as mainland China and Hong Kong to communicate and share with local fans and investment institutions, right? We are all want you come to China, yes.
Oh yeah, 100%. I would love to. I would love to do that. So, and all over the world too. Like, I had someone from Wall Street already say, "Oh, you have a lot of fans in Korea. Can I arrange a tour for you to come to Korea and go stop in all these cities along the way and eat bulgogi and all this kind of stuff?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I'm there." So I'd love to come to Hong Kong and wherever, Singapore, and all throughout Asia, China, meet all the fans, because it's always exciting for me, and I always learn a lot. You have to have a world perspective to really understand what's happening in technology, and what's going to affect all the companies that are around competing. So I look very much forward to joining you in Hong Kong and China soon.
Okay, thanks for your time and all these questions. Yeah, we love it. Let's go.
Thank you, YaO.
Yeah, let's go.
I want to thank you especially because you have started this WeChat group and the global Chinese community, and gotten people so excited about Open. I don't think there would be such a strong community without you, YaO. So thank you very much.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thank
it.
you.
Everything you do.
Okay.
Thank you.
Welcome to Referee Space.
Yeah, you can come to Hong Kong and send a message to me anytime, right? Yeah.
Okay. Sounds
Okay.
good.
That's all. Thank you. Yeah.
Thanks, YaO.
Yeah. Bye. Yeah.